Homeless Apache widow seeks work, but the rancher asked, "Can you be the mother my daughters need?" The sun had barely begun to rise over the dusty town, painting the wooden buildings with a soft, golden light. Maria walked slowly along the dirt road, her worn boots kicking up small clouds of dust with each step. Her small bundle of belongings, a few clothes wrapped in a faded cloth, a cooking pot and a blanket, hung from her shoulder. She had no home, no family nearby, and not much hope, but she held her head high. The wind brushed against her face, carrying the smell of dry earth and the faint tang of the river nearby. She breathed deeply, trying to calm the mix of fear and determination that roiled inside her. Maria was a widow, young in age but heavy with the grief of losing her husband just a year ago. He had been a kind and gentle man, strong but soft-spoken, and the thought of him often made her eyes sting with tears she refused to let fall in public. The small town she had arrived in was unfamiliar to her, filled with faces that did not welcome strangers easily. She had traveled on foot for days, stopping only when she could find a safe place to rest at night. Nights were the hardest. The quiet darkness made her feel lonelier, and the memories of her husband came uninvited. Yet with each morning she forced herself to move forward, to search for work, and to survive. The townspeople watched her with cautious eyes as she passed. Some whispered, while others simply shook their heads and turned away. Maria had learned that first impressions mattered, but so did persistence. She knew she could not afford to let their judgment crush her spirit. Her hands were calloused from years of work, both from helping on her husband's small farm and from traveling with a few other families who had taken her in briefly along the way. Though her body was tired, her mind remained sharp, always thinking of her next step, always considering how she could prove herself useful to someone who might give her a chance. She stopped in front of a small general store, glancing through the dusty windows. A man inside looked up from behind the counter and gave her a brief nod, but said nothing. Maria felt the weight of the silence and moved on, her stomach twisting with anxiety. Hunger was another constant companion. She had eaten little the last 2 days, surviving mostly on a small loaf of bread she had bought in the first town she passed through. Each step she took seemed heavier than the last, but she reminded herself that she could not give up. She had to find work, any work, before the night came again. Maria passed a stable where a few horses neighed softly, the smell of hay filling the air. She paused for a moment, watching the animals, their glossy coats shining in the morning sun. She had always loved animals, and the thought of working with them filled her with a small spark of hope. Perhaps she could find a position as a stable hand or someone to tend to the animals on a ranch. The idea gave her a sense of direction, a target for her wandering path. As she walked further down the main street, she overheard snippets of conversation from the townsfolk. Words like stranger, woman alone, and not reliable floated through the air. Maria knew she had to ignore them. She had faced prejudice before, not because of anything she had done, but because of who she was, a widow, a woman traveling alone, and a member of the Apache people. She had learned to endure judgment quietly and to let her actions speak for themselves. Her eyes caught a small notice pinned to a post near the edge of town. It read, "Rancher seeking help, good wages, inquire within." Her heart quickened. Could this be the chance she had been searching for? She approached the address listed, a large wooden gate leading into a sprawling property surrounded by rolling fields. The gate creaked as she pushed it open, her hands trembling slightly. Inside, the ranch stretched wide with barns, a stable and fields that seemed to go on forever. A few workers were already tending to the animals, their movements practiced and efficient. Maria hesitated for a moment at the entrance, unsure how to announce herself. Then she took a deep breath, stepped forward, and called out politely, "Excuse me, sir. I heard you were looking for help." A tall man with broad shoulders and sun-weathered skin emerged from behind the main house. His eyes were sharp, observing her carefully. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice firm but not unkind. "My name is Maria," she replied. "I am looking for work. I can cook, clean, and I can help with animals too. I just need a chance to prove myself." The rancher, John, studied her for a moment. Maria felt exposed under his gaze. He was a man who seemed to notice everything. The way she held herself, the determination in her eyes, and the care with which she adjusted her bundle. There was no hesitation in her voice, no plea for pity, only the quiet strength of someone who had endured much but was willing to keep going. "Have you worked on a ranch before?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Maria said. "I have helped on my husband's small farm. I know how to cook, clean, care for animals, and work the land. I will do whatever is needed." John nodded slowly. "We have children here," he said, a hint of caution in his tone. "2 girls. If you're going to work here, it won't be just chores. You'll need to understand that." Maria's stomach tightened. She had never been a mother, and the thought of caring for children she did not know made her nervous. Yet she also felt a strange pull in her heart, a sense that perhaps this could be something more than just work, a place where she might belong. I will do my best," she said softly, hoping her sincerity reached him. He gave a small nod. "Come in, let's talk." Inside the house, the air smelled of freshly baked bread and the faint scent of flowers. The girls, 2 small children with curious eyes and tangled hair, peeked from behind a doorframe. They watched Maria cautiously but with interest. Maria offered a gentle smile, lowering herself slightly so she was not intimidating. "Hello," she said. "My name is Maria. It's nice to meet you." The girls didn't respond at first, but their eyes lingered on her. Maria felt a pang of nervousness. She had never been around children this young on her own. Her own loss was still fresh, and the idea of taking care of others felt daunting. Yet she also felt an inexplicable warmth, a small hope that she could do more than survive. Perhaps she could help these children feel safe. John watched the interaction silently. He had been careful in choosing who could enter his home, but there was something in Maria that made him pause. She had a quiet confidence, a respect for boundaries, and yet an openness that seemed rare. Perhaps she could be trusted, not just with work but with the girls' hearts. Maria stayed for a moment, talking to the girls in gentle, soft tones, asking them about their day, smiling when they answered shyly. She could feel the tension in the room ease slightly, a small victory that gave her courage. This was her first real step toward something more stable than wandering the dusty roads, and she intended to seize it. As she left the house that afternoon, after the initial conversation, Maria walked slowly back toward the edge of town. Her thoughts were a whirlwind of hope and fear. Could she really stay here? Could she work hard enough, be patient enough, and care for these children without breaking under the weight of her own grief? She did not know, but she felt a spark within her, a small, stubborn flame that refused to die. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the town. Maria wrapped her blanket tightly around her shoulders and walked toward the open fields beyond. Somewhere in that distance, she hoped, was a place where she could rebuild her life, where she could be more than a widow with nothing to her name. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could find a family again, even if it was not the one she had lost. For the first time in many days, Maria allowed herself a small smile. The journey was far from over, but today she had taken the first step. And sometimes, she thought, that was enough. Maria woke the next morning before the sun had fully risen. The town was quiet, with only a few early risers walking along the dusty streets. She could still feel the warmth of hope from the previous day, the spark that had lit within her when she had met the rancher and his daughters. Today, she decided, she would return to the ranch. She would ask again for work, and this time she would not let fear stop her. Her boots crunched softly against the dirt road as she walked toward the ranch. She carried her small bundle, wrapped neatly and tied with care, and held her head high. Each step felt heavier than the last, not from fatigue, but from the mixture of excitement and nervousness that made her stomach twist. She had been on her own for so long that the idea of staying in one place, becoming part of someone else's life, and possibly caring for children she had never met, felt both thrilling and terrifying. As she approached the gate of the ranch, Maria could see the sun rising higher, casting long shadows across the fields. The barns and stable glowed in the warm light, and the horses neighed softly, as if greeting her arrival. Maria paused for a moment, closing her eyes and taking a deep breath. She reminded herself to be confident, to show the rancher that she was capable, strong, and trustworthy. When she stepped through the gate, the rancher, John Harlow, was already outside, checking the fence along the edge of the property. His broad shoulders and sun-darkened skin told her he was a man used to hard work. His eyes met hers, and for a moment Maria felt a mixture of apprehension and hope. "Good morning," she said politely. John nodded. "Morning, you're back early." His voice was calm, but there was a hint of curiosity in his tone. "Yes, sir," Maria replied. "I wanted to see if you had decided about the work. I can start right away. I want a chance to help." John studied her for a long moment. Maria could feel his gaze like a gentle weight, examining her carefully. He was not just looking at her appearance. He seemed to be searching for something deeper: honesty, patience, reliability. Maria held his gaze steadily, refusing to shrink back. "You know," John began slowly, "this isn't just a job. It's work, yes, but it's also about the girls. My daughters, they need someone who can care for them, someone steady. Are you ready for that?" Maria's heart skipped a beat. She had expected work with animals, cleaning, or cooking, but the mention of the girls made her stomach tighten. She had never been a mother. She had never cared for young children before her own husband passed away. But as she thought about the girls she had met yesterday, peeking shyly from behind the doorframe, a small spark of determination grew inside her. I will do my best, sir," she said softly but firmly. "I've cared for children before, not my own, but I've helped neighbors and relatives. I can learn, I can try, I will do whatever is needed." John nodded slowly, seeming to weigh her words carefully. "All right, you can start today. I'll show you what needs to be done. But remember, it's more than chores. You have to earn their trust too." Maria felt a mixture of relief and nervous anticipation. "Thank you, sir. I won't let you down." John gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. "We'll see." He led her inside the house, where the smell of fresh bread and cooked porridge made Maria's stomach rumble. The girls were already awake, sitting at the table, their hair messy from sleep, their eyes wide with curiosity. Maria knelt down slightly to meet their gaze. "Good morning," she said gently. "I'm Maria. I'm here to help you today. Will you show me around a little?" The younger girl, no more than 6, looked at her cautiously. The older girl, maybe 8, studied her with quiet curiosity. After a moment, the younger one whispered something to her sister, and the older girl nodded. Slowly, the older girl spoke. "You can help us?" she asked. "Yes," Maria replied. "I can help you. I'm not here to be scary or strict. I just want to help and make your day better." The girls exchanged a glance, then the older girl nodded again. "Okay, come with us." They led Maria through the house, showing her where the dishes were kept, where the brooms and cleaning supplies were, and even pointing to their small bedroom where she might help them tidy later. Maria listened carefully, memorizing each detail, showing that she was capable and willing to learn. After the tour, John led her outside to the barns and fields. He showed her the horses, explaining which ones needed feeding, which needed brushing, and which required more attention because of past injuries. Maria listened closely, repeating the instructions quietly to herself to make sure she remembered everything. Her hands itched to begin work, to prove that she could do this. By mid-morning, Maria had already fed the animals, swept the stable, and helped prepare a small meal for the girls. She moved with care and purpose, her body working but her mind alert. The girls watched her closely, sometimes smiling when she showed them small tricks, like brushing a horse's mane gently or arranging the fruit neatly for breakfast. Maria noticed that the younger girl, who had been shy and quiet, began to approach her more often, asking questions and even giggling at small jokes Maria made. John observed from a distance, leaning against the fence. He had been cautious about letting a stranger into his home, but he could see Maria's patience, her quiet strength, and the gentle way she interacted with the girls. He thought about his late wife and how he had feared he could never find someone to help raise his daughters properly. Watching Maria, he felt a small flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could fill the gap he had been struggling to manage alone. As the day wore on, Maria found herself growing more comfortable. She laughed softly when the girls told her stories of imaginary adventures, and she listened attentively when they spoke about school, chores, or the little worries of childhood. Her heart, heavy from grief and loneliness, began to feel something light and new, a sense of belonging even if fragile and untested. At midday, John called her aside. "You're doing well," he said, his tone serious but approving. "The girls like you, I can see that. But remember, this isn't just about work or trust. It's about patience, care, and understanding. Can you do that?" Maria paused for a moment, considering the weight of his words. Could she care for children she didn't know in a home that wasn't hers? Could she step into a role she had never imagined for herself? She thought about the long nights she had spent alone, the fear of never belonging anywhere, and the quiet hope that had brought her here. "Yes," she said firmly, "I can. I will do my best. I want to help them feel safe and happy." John nodded again, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "All right, we'll see how it goes, one day at a time." The afternoon was filled with chores and lessons. Maria helped the girls with their reading, showing patience and encouragement. She worked in the garden, planting seeds and pulling weeds, explaining each step to the girls who followed her eagerly. For the first time in months, Maria felt useful and connected. Her heart, which had been guarded and heavy, began to open slowly, warmed by the trust she could see forming in the children's eyes. As the sun began to set, casting golden light over the fields, Maria paused for a moment to look around. She saw the girls playing nearby, their laughter ringing out, and she felt a quiet satisfaction. This day, the first real day of work and connection, had been exhausting but rewarding. She had taken her first real step toward a new life, one that offered hope, purpose, and the possibility of family. Walking back toward the house, Maria felt the fatigue settle into her muscles, but she also felt a lightness she had not known for a long time. She realized that today had been more than just work. It had been the first time in months that she had felt alive in a meaningful way. She had not only proven herself to John and the girls, but she had also proven to herself that she could survive, adapt, and perhaps even thrive in this new chapter of life. That evening, as Maria settled down on a small cot in a corner of the house for the night, she thought about the journey that had brought her here, the long roads, the nights of hunger and loneliness, and the grief that still lingered in her heart. But she also thought about the warmth she had felt today, the laughter of the girls, and the quiet approval in John's eyes. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she belonged somewhere, where she was valued, and where she could make a difference in the lives of others. And as sleep finally took her, Maria held onto a quiet hope, a hope that tomorrow and the days after could be brighter, filled with work, care, and perhaps a new kind of family. The next morning, Maria woke to the sound of birds singing outside the window. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon, spilling soft gold across the ranch. She stretched her tired muscles and smiled to herself. Yesterday had been long and exhausting, but it had also been the first day she had truly felt like she belonged somewhere. She had been useful, she had been accepted, and most importantly, she had connected with the children. After a simple breakfast, Maria helped the girls get ready for their day. The younger girl, Anna, clung to her sleeve for a moment before letting go. "Do you think you'll stay today too?" she asked softly. Maria's heart warmed at the question. "Yes, Anna," she said gently, kneeling down so she was at eye level. "I'll be here all day. I want to help you and your sister, and I want to make sure you're safe and happy." The older girl, Clara, watched her carefully. "Do you always say nice things?" she asked, a small smile tugging at her lips. Maria laughed softly. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, spilling warm light across the fields. Maria woke to the sound of birds singing and the faint rustle of the girls moving around their room. She stretched and took a deep breath, feeling the quiet excitement of another day with the family she was beginning to care for deeply. Yesterday had been filled with small victories, laughter, and learning, but today, she sensed, would be more challenging. After a simple breakfast, Maria helped the girls get ready. Anna clung to her sleeve as usual, and Clara gave a small smile, still cautious but more comfortable than the day before. Maria's heart ached with tenderness as she knelt to speak to them. "Are you ready for today?" she asked gently. Anna nodded eagerly. "Yes." "Will we go outside?" "Yes," Maria replied, ruffling her hair. "But remember to listen and stay close. There are chores to do and we must be careful." John appeared in the doorway, his face serious. "I'll be in the fields today," he said. "You'll handle the girls and the chores around the house. There's a lot to do, so take your time but make sure everything is done properly." Maria nodded. She had grown accustomed to hard work, but caring for children while managing household responsibilities was a new challenge. She knew she had to balance patience, care, and efficiency all at once. The morning began quietly. Maria taught the girls to help with small chores, like setting the table, washing vegetables, and sweeping the floor. Clara was cautious at first, but she slowly began to follow Maria's instructions, her confidence growing with each task. Anna, though younger, followed Maria's movements eagerly, mimicking her carefully. Maria encouraged them both, praising their efforts and gently correcting mistakes without scolding. By late morning, the day took an unexpected turn. A sudden thunderstorm rolled in, dark clouds covering the sky. The wind picked up, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Maria quickly guided the girls inside, closing the windows and securing the doors. The storm was heavier than expected, with wind rattling the shutters and rain hammering the roof. Maria felt a pang of worry for the animals outside, especially the horses and chickens she had cared for the previous day. "Don't worry," she said, trying to reassure herself as much as the girls. "We'll be safe inside. The animals are in the barn, they'll be fine." The girls huddled close to her, shivering slightly. Maria wrapped her arms around them, feeling their small bodies tremble. She realized that their fear was more than just the storm. It was the feeling of uncertainty that came from losing a mother. She held them gently, whispering comforting words, trying to create a sense of safety and security in the middle of the storm. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, but inside the house, Maria kept the children occupied. She told them stories, taught them small songs, and even played little games that could be done indoors. Her voice was calm, her movements steady, and slowly the girls began to relax. By the time the storm passed, their laughter had returned, softer at first, then stronger as they regained their sense of safety. John returned from the fields in the late afternoon. He was wet and tired from checking on the crops and animals, but he smiled as he saw Maria and the girls. "I see you handled things well," he said quietly, his eyes observing the bond that had formed. "They trust you. I can see it." Maria felt a small surge of pride but also a gentle humility. "They're brave children," she said softly. "I just tried to keep them safe." John nodded. "Yes, but it's more than safety. You've given them comfort, reassurance, and patience. That's what they've needed for a long time." Maria felt warmth spread through her chest. For the first time since her husband's death, she felt that her actions mattered, that she was truly needed. She realized that this role, caring for these children, creating a safe home and being a steady presence, was more than a job. It was a purpose, a reason to continue despite her grief and the hardships of the past. The following days tested her in other ways. The townspeople were not all welcoming. Some whispered about a stranger, a woman of Apache descent, taking care of a family that was not her own. Maria could hear their murmurs when she walked into town to fetch supplies. At first, it hurt. She felt the weight of their judgment, the unfairness of their prejudice. But she refused to let it affect her work. She focused on the children, on the chores, and on proving through action that she was reliable and caring. One afternoon, Clara came to Maria, her face troubled. "Some kids at school said you're not like other mothers," she whispered. Maria felt a pang of sadness. She knelt to Clara's level and took her hand gently. "Sometimes people say things because they don't understand," she explained. "What matters is what we do here with love, care, and honesty. We cannot control what others say, but we can control how we treat each other." Clara nodded slowly, absorbing the words. Anna, standing nearby, hugged Maria's waist. Maria hugged her back, feeling the depth of the trust and affection the girls had begun to place in her. She realized that being a mother was not just about birth or blood. It was about care, guidance, patience, and love. The work at the ranch continued to be hard, but Maria began to find rhythm and joy in it. She rose early to feed the animals, worked alongside John when necessary, and still found time to help the girls with lessons, chores, and play. She discovered small joys in the children's laughter, in the satisfaction of a task completed well, and in the quiet moments when she could watch the sunset over the fields. Yet, the emotional challenges persisted. Maria often found herself thinking of her late husband, missing the life they had shared, and wondering if she could ever truly belong in this new family. There were nights when she lay awake, listening to the quiet house, and felt the weight of loneliness pressing down. But even then, she drew strength from the children, from the trust they had placed in her, and from the quiet approval she could see in John's eyes. One evening, after a long day, John came to Maria while she was feeding the chickens. "You've done well," he said, his voice steady. "I can see the girls are comfortable with you. You've become more than just a helper." Maria paused, her hands stilling. "Do you really mean that, sir?" she asked softly. John nodded. "Yes. I see how patient you are, how careful and gentle. They trust you and I trust you. That is not something I give lightly." Maria felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. She was not used to such direct acknowledgement, especially after months of loneliness and hardship. "Thank you," she whispered. I just want to do my best for them." John smiled faintly. "I can see that. Keep doing what you're doing and we'll see where it leads." The days turned into weeks. Maria's bond with the girls deepened. She learned their habits, their fears, their favorite games, and their little quirks. She began to feel like part of the family, not just an employee. She celebrated their small victories, comforted them in moments of fear, and became the steady presence they needed. In turn, she found healing in their laughter, warmth, and affection. One afternoon, a small accident reminded Maria of the ongoing responsibility of caring for children. Anna, curious and energetic, had climbed a small ladder to reach a bird's nest. Clara shouted a warning, but Anna lost her balance, dangling dangerously for a moment before Maria rushed in and steadied her. The incident left the girls shaken, but it reinforced the trust they had in Maria. "You always keep us safe," Clara said quietly once the girls were calm again. Maria smiled, her heart full. "That's what I'm here for," she said softly. "I will always try my best to keep you safe and happy." That night Maria lay in bed, reflecting on the past weeks. She realized how far she had come, from a wandering, grieving widow to someone who had a place, a purpose, and a connection with children who now depended on her. She knew there would be challenges ahead, but she also knew that she was growing stronger, more patient, and more capable with each passing day. For the first time in months, Maria allowed herself to imagine a future that was not just about survival. She could see herself as part of this family, someone who mattered, someone whose presence brought comfort and joy. She had faced judgment, fear, and doubt, but she had also found trust, love, and hope. And she knew that, no matter what happened next, she was ready to embrace her new role fully, with courage and compassion. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, painting the fields with soft, golden light. Birds chirped from the trees, and the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze brought a sense of calm and peace. Maria awoke on her small cot, stretching her tired muscles and smiling. Today felt different, lighter, warmer. It was the first morning she truly felt that she belonged somewhere, that she was not alone, and that she had a purpose beyond survival. She quietly got dressed, careful not to wake the girls too early. Anna stirred in her sleep but didn't wake, and Clara peeked from under her blanket, giving Maria a small, shy smile. Maria's heart swelled. Over the past weeks, she had become more than just a helper on the ranch. She had become a steady presence in their lives, a source of comfort, and a figure of trust. After breakfast, Maria guided the girls outside to help with chores. They moved with practiced ease, Anna carrying a small basket of eggs and Clara helping with the garden. Maria watched them for a moment, a quiet pride settling over her. They had grown more confident, more playful, and more willing to engage with her without fear or hesitation. John appeared at the gate, his face warm with approval. "Good morning," he said. "I see the girls are already helping. You've done a wonderful job with them." Maria smiled softly. "Thank you, sir. They're wonderful children. They're easy to guide, but it takes patience and care." John nodded. "It's more than that. They trust you. They look up to you. That's not something that comes easily, and I'm grateful for it." Maria felt a gentle warmth in her chest. These words were more than praise. They were acknowledgement, recognition that she had earned her place here. She had not only survived, but she had also grown, learned, and given herself to this new family. The morning chores passed smoothly. Maria worked alongside the girls, teaching them small lessons while maintaining a gentle balance of guidance and freedom. She showed them how to plant seeds carefully, tend to the animals, and keep the house orderly. The girls listened attentively, their confidence growing with each task. Maria realized that in teaching them, she was also learning patience, resilience, and the quiet strength that came from caring deeply for others. Later that morning, a small challenge arose that would test Maria's calm and resolve. A stray calf had wandered away from the pasture, heading toward the river. Maria noticed it immediately and sprang into action, guiding the girls to a safe area while she ran toward the animal. Her heart pounded as she approached the calf, speaking softly to calm it. Slowly, carefully, she managed to guide it back to the pasture, her movements steady and reassuring. When she returned, the girls ran to her, their eyes wide with admiration. "You saved it," Anna exclaimed, her voice full of wonder. Maria knelt and hugged them both. "We worked together. That's the important part. Always remember that helping each other makes everything easier." John appeared at that moment, watching quietly from the fence. He had seen the entire scene and felt a deep respect for Maria. Not only had she managed a difficult situation calmly and effectively, but she had also included the girls, teaching them how to handle challenges responsibly. He realized more clearly than ever that she was exactly the person his daughters needed, not just a caretaker, but a mentor, a guide, and a steady, loving presence. Days turned into weeks, and Maria's bond with the girls deepened further. They shared laughter, stories, and quiet moments of comfort. She celebrated their small victories, from learning new skills to overcoming fears, and comforted them when they were sad or anxious. Slowly, she began to feel as though she were part of a true family, not just someone filling a role. One evening, after a long day of chores, John called Maria aside. They walked together along the edge of the fields, the sun setting behind the hills and painting the sky with warm colors. "Maria," he began, his voice gentle. "I need to ask you something important. The girls, they need more than care and guidance. They need a mother figure, someone steady, patient, and loving. Can you do that for them? Can you be the mother they need?" Maria's heart skipped a beat. She had thought about this question many times in her heart, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. She thought about the girls, their shy smiles, their laughter, their trust, and about herself, about her own grief and the strength she had found in the past months. She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting John's. I will try my best," she said softly, her voice steady. "I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I can promise that I will care for them, guide them, and do everything I can to help them feel safe and loved." John smiled, a weight of relief in his eyes. "That's all I ask. That's all anyone can ask." That evening, Maria sat with the girls before bedtime. She read them stories, sang quiet songs, and listened to their little worries. Clara leaned against her shoulder, and Anna held her hand tightly. Maria felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging and love that she had not felt in a long time. She realized that being a mother was not just about giving birth or having children of your own. It was about presence, care, patience, and love. She could be a mother to these girls, not by replacing their mother, but by supporting them, guiding them, and being someone they could always rely on. The next days were filled with small but meaningful moments that strengthened their bond. Maria taught the girls how to care for the garden, how to help in the kitchen, and even shared small lessons about life, honesty, and kindness. She laughed with them, comforted them when they cried, and celebrated their successes with joy. The town, which had once whispered and judged her, began to notice the change. People saw the girls happy, confident, and well cared for. They saw Maria's dedication, patience, and warmth. Slowly, the murmurs turned to nods of respect. Maria felt no need for their approval, but she appreciated the quiet acknowledgement. She was building a life here, a family, and a home, and that was all that mattered. One afternoon, John approached Maria while she and the girls were feeding the animals. "You've done more than I could have hoped," he said quietly. "You've become a part of this family. I think we're lucky to have you here." Maria felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I feel lucky too," she said softly. "I've found a place to belong, and I've found people to care for. That means more to me than I can say." The girls, hearing the conversation, ran to Maria and hugged her tightly. "We love you," Anna exclaimed. "You're the best." Maria held them close, feeling the truth of her words reflected in their innocent faces. For the first time in many months, she felt whole. She had lost her husband, faced loneliness, and endured hardship, but she had found a new family, a new purpose, and a sense of belonging that healed her heart. As the sun set behind the hills, Maria, John, and the girls sat together on the porch. The air was warm, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange. The horses grazed quietly in the distance, and the ranch was calm and peaceful. Maria looked at John, then at the girls, and felt a quiet gratitude. She had found more than a job or a place to live. She had found a home, a family, and a purpose that made life meaningful again. That night, Maria lay in her cot, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the roads she had walked, the hardships she had faced, and the grief that had once seemed unbearable. She realized that all of it, the pain, the loss, the wandering, had led her to this place. She had grown stronger, more patient, and more capable of love than she had ever imagined. And as she drifted off to sleep, she held a quiet hope in her heart. A hope that tomorrow and every day after would be filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of family. She had become the mother the girls needed, not through magic or luck, but through patience, care, and unwavering determination. She had found belonging, and in doing so, she had found herself. The ranch was quiet under the blanket of night, the soft sounds of animals and the rustling wind creating a peaceful melody. Maria slept with a smile on her face, knowing that she was home, that she was loved, and that she had finally found a place where she truly mattered. The journey had been long and difficult, but the ending, warm, hopeful, and full of love, was more beautiful than she could have ever imagined. "I try to," she said. "It makes people feel better, doesn't it?" Clara nodded and went off to gather her books, leaving Maria with Anna. Maria noticed how cautious Anna was, how she hesitated to speak freely. Maria remembered her own childhood, how shy and reserved she had been, and she felt a small pang of empathy. She wanted to help the girls feel safe, not just for a day, but for every day they spent at the ranch. After breakfast, John called Maria outside. "I want to show you some work in the fields," he said. "It's hard, but I think you can handle it." Maria nodded eagerly. She had grown up doing farm work, but the ranch was larger than anything she had known. The field stretched wide and golden under the morning sun, the crops swaying gently in the breeze. John handed her a basket. "We need to check the fences, water the crops, and feed the chickens. Start here and I'll guide you if you need help." Maria worked steadily, her hands moving with practiced skill. She brushed her hair back from her face, feeling the sun warm her skin. The work was tiring, but it was satisfying. She loved the rhythm of the chores, the sense of accomplishment with each task completed. She felt useful in a way she had not felt since her husband had passed. By mid-morning, the girls had joined her outside. Anna stayed close to Maria, mimicking her movements as she helped collect eggs from the chicken coop. Clara, more confident, wandered the fields a little further, occasionally looking back to make sure Maria was watching. Maria felt a sense of joy she hadn't felt in a long time. These children were beginning to trust her, and she was beginning to care for them deeply. During a short break, Maria sat under a large oak tree, drinking water and wiping the sweat from her brow. The girls sat beside her, quiet at first, but soon Clara began to speak. "Do you miss your family?" she asked. Maria hesitated. The question was simple, but it carried the weight of her grief. She thought of her husband, of the life they had shared, and of the loneliness that had followed his death. "Yes," she said softly, "I miss them very much. But sometimes, when we meet new people and care for them, it can make life feel a little brighter." Clara nodded thoughtfully, and Anna leaned against Maria's shoulder. "You make it brighter," Anna said quietly. Maria's heart swelled with warmth. She realized that, in helping these children, she was also beginning to heal herself. Later that afternoon, a small accident occurred that tested Maria's courage and presence of mind. Anna, curious and playful, had wandered too close to the edge of a small stream. She slipped and fell, crying out as she landed in the shallow water. Maria acted instantly. She waded in carefully, lifted Anna in her arms, and carried her back to the bank. She checked her over quickly. No scratches, no injuries, just wet clothes and a frightened heart. "It's okay, Anna," Maria said softly, rocking her gently. "You're safe now, I've got you." The younger girl clung to her tightly, sobs quieting as she realized she was not alone. Clara ran up, worry etched on her face. Maria reassured her as well, showing patience and calm that seemed to surprise even John, who had arrived just in time to see the final moments. "You did well," John said quietly, after making sure the girls were calm. "You handled that perfectly." Maria felt a mixture of relief and pride. The moment had been terrifying, but it had also shown her that she could protect the children, care for them, and be trusted. She realized that this was not just work, it was responsibility, and it was a role she was growing into naturally. As the day wore on, Maria found herself growing more attached to the girls. She taught them small lessons in the garden, helped them read aloud, and even joined in their imaginative games. The laughter of the children, once foreign and distant to her, now became a source of joy and energy. She noticed how Clara began to smile more freely, how Anna stopped hiding behind her sister's skirts, and how both girls started seeking her attention. In the evening, as the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Maria walked back to the house, her body tired but her heart full. She thought about the conversation she had had with John earlier. His words had been cautious, careful. He was testing her, weighing whether she could truly care for his daughters. But she knew deep down that she was beginning to prove herself. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She wanted to be a steady presence in their lives, a source of comfort and safety. Over dinner, the family sat together. Maria helped serve the food, making small talk with the girls. They shared stories of the day, their voices animated and happy. Maria listened attentively, smiling and laughing when appropriate, feeling a sense of belonging that she had not known in months. John watched from across the table, noting how naturally Maria fit into the family. He felt a small hope stirring within him, hope that perhaps this stranger could become someone more than just a helper, someone who could care for his daughters as he had once hoped to. After the meal, Maria helped clean the dishes and tidy the kitchen. She moved with efficiency and care, always mindful of the girls, who occasionally wandered close to watch or help. It was a small routine, but it felt like a family routine, something she had never experienced in her own home since her husband's death. She realized that belonging was not just about having a roof over your head, but about connection, trust, and shared moments like this. That night, as Maria lay on her cot, she reflected on the day. She thought about the accident by the stream, the laughter of the children, and the small but meaningful moments she had shared with them. She felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense that she was doing something important and right. And yet, she also felt the weight of responsibility. Caring for children, especially ones who had lost their mother, was not easy. It required patience, understanding, and emotional strength. She had doubts, yes, but she also felt a growing determination to rise to the challenge. Maria thought about her own loss, about the husband she had loved and the life she had shared with him. She realized that grief could not be erased, but it could be transformed into care, empathy, and the capacity to nurture others. She had survived loss, loneliness, and hardship, and now she had an opportunity to turn that strength into something positive for the children she was beginning to love. As she drifted to sleep, Maria felt a quiet hope settle in her heart. She was no longer just a wandering widow. She was becoming part of a family, someone who mattered, someone who could make a difference. The road ahead would be long and full of challenges, but for the first time in many months, she felt ready to face it. She felt ready to be more than a survivor. She felt ready to be a caregiver, a protector, and perhaps even a mother in a way she had never imagined possible. The ranch was quiet that night, the soft sounds of the animals and the gentle breeze outside lulling her to sleep. Maria knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, and new moments of connection. And she welcomed it, because for the first time in a long time, she felt that she belonged somewhere, that her life had a purpose, and that she could make a real difference in the lives of the children she had come to care for so deeply.